Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Come with me to watch this incredible forbidden love story, where society feels like judging you for the least thing you have ever done. Taekook deserves love. So let's see what is going to happen with our beautiful men. It will be an emotional story. Hope you enjoy it. Let's start. Jungkook's eyes fluttered open to unfamiliar ceiling tiles and the soft sound of running water from an adjoining bathroom. Fragments of the previous night flickered through his mind like scenes from a fevered dream. The company's annual party, too many drinks, heated glances across the room, and then Taehyung's fingers threading through his hair as they stumbled through the hotel room door, mouths desperately seeking each other. The way his secretary's breath hitched when Jungkook pressed him against the wall. Their bodies finally pressed together without the barrier of professional distance. "Are you sure?" Taehyung had whispered against his lips, dark eyes searching his face in the dim lamplight. Jungkook's answer had been to capture those lips again. Tasting the wine on Taehyung's tongue, feeling the soft gasp that escaped when he traced kisses down the elegant column of his neck. The careful way Taehyung's hands had mapped every plane of his chest as they moved toward the bed, as if memorizing something precious he might never touch again. The whispered confessions in the dark, "I've wanted this for so long," and the way Taehyung had looked at him afterward, golden skin flushed and hair mussed, eyes soft with something that looked dangerously like love. His secretary. His incredibly efficient, devastatingly handsome secretary who was now humming softly in the hotel bathroom. The same low melody he'd hummed against Jungkook's collarbone in the early hours of dawn. Jungkook sat up abruptly, his head pounding from more than just the alcohol. What had he done? This was supposed to be impossible, unthinkable. He was Jeon Jungkook, CEO of Jeon Industries, heir to a conservative empire built on traditional values his father never let him forget. The bathroom door opened, and Taehyung emerged with a towel wrapped around his waist, water droplets still clinging to his golden skin. The same skin Jungkook had worshipped with his hands and mouth just hours before. Their eyes met, and the air grew thick with unspoken questions and the memory of whispered endearments. "Good morning," Taehyung said quietly, his usual professional demeanor nowhere to be found. There was a tenderness in his voice that made Jungkook's chest ache. Jungkook couldn't find his voice. All he could think about was how perfectly Taehyung had fit in his arms, how right it had felt to finally stop pretending, and how terrified he was of what it meant. 6 months earlier. "Mr. Jeon will see you now." Kim Taehyung straightened his tie one final time before entering the imposing office on the top floor of Jeon Industries. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city, but his attention was immediately drawn to the man behind the massive desk. Jeon Jungkook was younger than Taehyung had expected, probably only a few years older than himself. Dark hair perfectly styled, sharp jawline, and eyes that seemed to see right through him. He wore authority like a second skin. But there was something else there, a carefully controlled intensity that made Taehyung's pulse quicken. "Kim Taehyung," Jungkook said, not looking up from the resume in his hands. "Graduated top of your class, 5 years experience as an executive assistant, fluent in 4 languages, and your previous employer gave you a glowing recommendation." "Yes, sir." Finally, those dark eyes met his. "Why do you want to work for me?" The question was simple, but the way Jungkook asked it, with that slight tilt of his head and unwavering stare, made Taehyung feel like he was being evaluated for something far more significant than a secretarial position. I believe in challenging myself, Mr. John. Your company is known for innovation and excellence. I want to be part of that. A small smile tugged at the corner of Jungkook's mouth. You start Monday. Over the following months, Taehyung proved himself indispensable. He anticipated Jungkook's needs before they were voiced, managed his schedule with military precision, and somehow made the most demanding clients feel heard and valued. But it was the small moments that slowly unraveled Jungkook's carefully constructed walls. The way Taehyung would place his morning coffee at exactly the right temperature on his desk, their fingers brushing as he handed over important documents. How he stayed late without being asked when Jungkook was buried in a particularly challenging project, quietly working at his desk outside the office until Jungkook emerged, exhausted. You should go home, Jungkook would say, finding Taehyung still there at 9, 10, sometimes 11 at night. I'll leave when you do, sir. Taehyung would reply with that gentle smile that made something flutter dangerously in Jungkook's chest. The stolen glances became longer. The professional touches lingered. When Taehyung would lean over his shoulder to point out something on his computer screen, Jungkook found himself breathing in the subtle scent of his cologne, fighting the urge to turn his head and close the minimal distance between them. It was a dangerous game they were playing, and they both knew it. The company's annual celebration was held at the city's most exclusive hotel. Jungkook had given his speech, shaken hands with investors, and played the role of the perfect CEO son his father expected him to be. But his eyes kept finding Taehyung across the room. Tonight, away from the office, his secretary looked different. The formal suit was replaced with a midnight blue dress shirt that brought out his eyes, and he moved through the crowd with an easy confidence that made Jungkook's mouth go dry. You're staring, his friend Jimin murmured, appearing at his elbow with 2 glasses of whiskey. I'm observing, Jungkook corrected, accepting the drink. Right? And I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that your secretary looks absolutely stunning tonight. Jungkook downed his whiskey in one gulp, then another, and another. By the time the evening wound down, liquid courage had dissolved his inhibitions. When he found Taehyung by the bar, those beautiful eyes slightly glazed from his own alcohol consumption, the careful distance they'd maintained for months suddenly felt impossible to bear. Dance with me? Jungkook said, extending his hand. Taehyung's breath caught. Sir, I don't think. Just tonight. Just be with me, Jungkook said. On the dimly lit dance floor, with Taehyung's hand in his and their bodies swaying to the soft music, Jungkook felt like he could finally breathe. But when the song ended and Taehyung looked up at him with those dark, questioning eyes, breathing became the last thing on his mind. Room 1247. Jungkook whispered against Taehyung's ear. If you want this too. 20 minutes later, Taehyung knocked on his door. Back to the present. We should talk about this, Taehyung said softly, now dressed in his clothes from the night before. Jungkook was pacing by the window, fully clothed but feeling more exposed than he had in years. There's nothing to talk about. This was a mistake. The words hit Taehyung like a physical blow, but he kept his expression carefully neutral. I see. You don't understand. Jungkook ran his hands through his hair. My father, my family, the company, they have expectations. This can never happen again. Of course, Mr. John. The formal address was like a wall slamming back down between them. I'll submit my resignation Monday morning. No. The word came out sharper than Jungkook intended. You're the best secretary I've ever had. We'll just pretend this never happened. Taehyung nodded, but something had shifted in his eyes. Something that looked dangerously close to heartbreak. Monday morning arrived with all the subtlety of a hurricane. Jungkook's father, the imposing Jeon Jungkook, sat across from his son's desk with the satisfied expression of a man who believed he held all the cards. The Park family has agreed to the arrangement, he announced without preamble. Their daughter Seoyeon is accomplished, beautiful, and comes from good stock. The merger of our companies will be advantageous for everyone involved. Jungkook's coffee turned to ash in his mouth. I haven't agreed to any marriage, father. You're 30 years old, Jungkook. It's time you settled down with an appropriate woman and started thinking about heirs. The Park girl will make an excellent wife. The office door opened quietly as Taehyung entered with fresh coffee for their guest, moving with his usual graceful efficiency. Jungkook watched his face remain perfectly composed, but he caught the slight tremor in Taehyung's hand as he set down the cup. This union will strengthen both our families, Jungkook continued, completely oblivious to the tension crackling in the room. Seoyeon is expecting your call this week to arrange dinner. Don't disappoint me, son. Taehyung finished serving the coffee and moved toward the door, but not before Jungkook saw something break behind his carefully maintained facade. Will there be anything else, sir? Taehyung asked. His voice professionally steady despite the storm Jungkook could see raging in his eyes. No, that will be all, Jungkook managed, hating himself for the formal dismissal, for the hurt he was causing, for the impossible situation that made loving Taehyung feel like a betrayal of everything he was supposed to be. As the door closed behind Taehyung, Jungkook felt something inside his chest crack open. His father was still talking about wedding dates and business mergers, but all Jungkook could think about was the look in Taehyung's eyes, and the growing certainty that choosing duty over his heart might destroy them both. The question that haunted him as his father droned on about expectations and family honor was simple yet terrifying. How long could he keep pretending that one night with Taehyung hadn't changed everything? And more importantly, how could he choose between the life he was expected to live and the love he never saw coming? 3 days passed in excruciating tension. Taehyung maintained his professional facade flawlessly, but Jungkook caught the subtle changes. The way he no longer lingered when bringing documents, how his smiles never quite reached his eyes, the careful distance he maintained even when necessary work brought them close. Your future fiancé is expecting your call today. His father's voice crackled through the office phone. Don't make me remind you again, Jungkook. Jungkook stared at the business card on his desk. Park Seoyeon, printed in elegant script. A stranger who was supposed to become his wife, bear his children, fulfill his family's expectations of what his life should look like. Sir, Taehyung's voice made him look up. The quarterly reports are ready for your review. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Jungkook saw a flicker of the man who had whispered his name in the darkness, who had traced patterns on his chest while they talked about dreams and fears until sunrise. Taehyung, is there anything else you need, Mr. John? The formal address was like a knife between his ribs. Jungkook picked up the business card, hating himself. Please arrange dinner reservations for Friday evening. Somewhere appropriate. For two. Something died in Taehyung's eyes. Of course, Shall I call Miss Park to confirm the arrangements? Yes. The word felt like swallowing glass. Park Seo-yeon was everything his father had promised. Beautiful, accomplished, perfectly polished. She spoke eloquently about art, business, and their family's shared history. She was the ideal choice for a CEO's wife. Jungkook felt absolutely nothing. You seem distracted, she observed over dessert, her smile understanding rather than offended. I hope I'm not boring you with talk of the gallery opening. Not at all. I apologize. Work has been demanding lately. She tilted her head, studying him with intelligent eyes. May I be frank with you, Jungkook? He nodded, surprised by her directness. This arrangement, it's what our families want. But I can see you're not entirely present tonight. There's someone else, isn't there? Jungkook's carefully constructed composure cracked. I don't know what you mean. I'm not blind, nor am I desperate for a loveless marriage. If you're in love with someone else, perhaps we should discuss this honestly rather than going through the motions. The kindness in her voice made everything worse. She deserved better than a man whose heart belonged to someone he could never openly claim. Jungkook returned to the office late that evening, finding the building mostly empty except for security. But light still glowed from his secretary's desk. Taehyung was there, as he always was, sorting through files with methodical precision. Why are you still here? Jungkook asked. Taehyung didn't look up. Finishing the quarterly analysis. It'll be on your desk in the morning. Go home, Taehyung. I prefer to finish my work. That's an order. Finally, Taehyung looked at him, and the pain in his eyes was devastating. How was your dinner, sir? The question hung between them, loaded with everything they couldn't say. Fine, Jungkook lied. Taehyung nodded, gathering his things with sharp, efficient movements. I'll have the wedding venue options ready for your review by tomorrow afternoon. Your father mentioned you'd want to move quickly with the engagement. Taehyung wait, but his secretary was already walking toward the elevator, leaving Jungkook alone with the weight of his choices and the echo of what he was throwing away. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Taehyung placed his resignation letter on Jungkook's desk along with the morning coffee, his face carefully blank. 2 weeks' notice as required by my contract, he said simply. Jungkook stared at the letter, panic rising in his throat. You can't leave. I believe I can, sir. I've already begun training my replacement. This is about the other night. This is about my career, Mr. John. I've received an offer from Kim Enterprises. It's an excellent opportunity. I won't accept your resignation. For the first time in days, Taehyung's composure cracked. You can't keep me here, Jungkook. You made your choice. You're marrying her. I don't want to marry her. The words exploded out of him. I don't want any of this. Then don't do it. Taehyung's voice was soft, desperate. Choose differently. You don't understand. My family, the company, everything I've worked for. What about what you want? What about us? The question shattered something inside Jungkook's chest. There is no us. There can't be. Taehyung stepped closer, close enough that Jungkook could smell his familiar cologne, see the unshed tears in his dark eyes. That night, did it mean nothing to you? It meant everything, Jungkook whispered, the confession torn from his soul. That's why it can never happen again. You're a coward, Taehyung said quietly, and the words cut deeper than any shout. You're letting fear make your choices for you. With that, he turned and walked out, leaving Jungkook alone with his resignation letter and the devastating truth he couldn't bring himself to fight for. Jungkook's finger trembled as he dialed. It rang once, twice. Hello. Taehyung's voice was cautious, probably surprised to see his boss's name on his phone at nearly midnight. Don't take the job at Kim Enterprises. Silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility and fear. Jungkook, what are you? I'm in love with you. The words rushed out before he could stop them. I'm terrified and I'm probably about to destroy everything my family built. But I'm in love with you and I can't let you walk away. He heard Taehyung's sharp intake of breath. What about your father? The marriage? I'll figure it out. I have to try. We have to try. Jungkook's voice cracked. That night, you asked if I was sure. I wasn't sure of anything except how I felt when I was with you. I want to be sure now. Of us. Jungkook. Taehyung's voice was soft, hopeful. Are you really ready for this? For what it means? I'm ready to stop being a coward. The confrontation with his father came sooner than expected. Young-soo stormed into Jungkook's office the next morning, his face thunderous. Park Seo-yeon called off the engagement. His voice was dangerously quiet. She said you told her you were in love with someone else. Care to explain? Jungkook stood from his desk, spine straight. He'd barely slept, but for the first time in months he felt clear. I told her the truth. The truth? The truth is that you have responsibilities, a legacy to uphold. You can't throw that away for some infatuation. It's not an infatuation, father. I'm in love. With whom? Jungkook's eyes narrowed dangerously. Some socialite? An actress? I can make arrangements. With Taehyung. The silence that followed was deafening. Jungkook's face went through several shades of red before settling on a pale, controlled fury. Your secretary. The words dripped with disgust. A man. Yes. I won't have it. Jungkook's voice was ice. I won't have a son who disgraces this family with such perversion. You'll end this immediately, marry Seo-yeon, and we'll never speak of this again. Seo-yeon deserves better than a man who can't love her. And I deserve better than living a lie. You deserve nothing if you choose this path. Young-soo leaned forward, his threat clear. Choose him and you're no son of mine. The company, your inheritance, this family, gone. Is your precious secretary worth losing everything? Jungkook thought of Taehyung's smile, his gentle hands, the way he made even the worst days bearable. Yes, he is. The fallout was swift and brutal. By afternoon, Jungkook's access to company accounts was frozen. By evening, security was escorting him from the building with his personal belongings in a single box. The media, somehow already informed, captured every humiliating moment. John heir disinherited over gay scandal, screamed the headlines. Taehyung was waiting in the lobby, his face pale but determined. Come on, he said simply, taking the box from Jungkook's hands. Let's go home. Home turned out to be Taehyung's modest apartment, a world away from the penthouse Jungkook had lost. As they sat on the small couch, sharing takeout from containers, Jungkook felt lighter than he had in years. Do you regret it? Taehyung asked quietly. Jungkook reached for his hand, threading their fingers together. Ask me in 10 years. Taehyung smiled, the first real smile Jungkook had seen from him in weeks. I love you too, by the way, in case that wasn't clear. It bears repeating, Jungkook murmured, leaning in to kiss him softly. 6 months later, Jungkook barely recognized his old life. He'd used his savings to start a consulting firm, working with small businesses instead of corporate giants. The work was harder, the pay smaller, but every morning he woke up next to Taehyung felt like a victory. JK Consulting received 3 new client inquiries today, Taehyung announced, setting coffee on their kitchen table. He'd become Jungkook's business partner in everything that mattered. Good. We might actually make rent this month, Jungkook teased, pulling Taehyung down for a morning kiss. Your optimism is inspiring. Taehyung laughed against his lips. They were interrupted by Jungkook's phone buzzing. An unknown number. Hello, Jungkook. The voice was familiar, hesitant. It's Seoyeon. Jungkook straightened, surprised. Seoyeon, how are you? I'm well. I hope you don't mind me calling. I wanted you to know that your father reached out to my family again last week. He's still hoping to salvage some kind of arrangement. I'm sorry. I know this has been difficult. Don't apologize. I called because I wanted to tell you something. I've been seeing someone, a woman I met at the gallery. We're very happy. Jungkook felt a smile spread across his face. That's wonderful. It is. And Jungkook, I understand now what you meant about not being able to love someone you're supposed to. I hope you're happy too. I am. Very happy. After he hung up, Taehyung raised an eyebrow. Good news. The best kind. It seems we're not the only ones who chose love over expectations. 1 year after walking away from everything, Jungkook stood in a different hotel room, but this time he wasn't running from anything. Taehyung emerged from the bathroom in a sharp black suit, adjusting his tie. Ready? Taehyung asked. Jungkook nodded, straightening his own tie. Ready. They were attending their first industry event as an openly committed couple, their company finally successful enough to warrant an invitation. Some would stare, some would whisper, but they would face it together. As they walked toward the elevator, Taehyung caught his hand. No regrets. Jungkook thought about his father, who still refused his calls. About the fortune he'd lost and the simpler life he'd gained. About the man beside him who'd been worth every sacrifice. Not a single one, he said, bringing Taehyung's hand to his lips for a gentle kiss. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped inside together, ready to face whatever came next. They had each other, they had their love, and they had chosen their own path. For Jeon Jungkook, that was everything. The small office buzzed with quiet activity as JK Consulting prepared for another successful quarter. What had started as a desperate venture had grown into a respected firm, specializing in helping family businesses navigate modern challenges with traditional values. Mr. Jeon, their newest intern, a bright-eyed college graduate, poked her head into his office. There's someone here to see you. Says it's personal. Jungkook looked up from his computer, curious. Did they give a name? Jeon Jungkook, sir. The pen in Jungkook's hand stilled. 5 years of silence, and now his father was here. Taehyung appeared in the doorway, his expression concerned. They'd built this life together. created something beautiful from the ashes of expectation. Whatever his father wanted, they would face it together. Should I? Taehyung began. Stay, Jungkook said firmly. Please. His father entered the modest office, looking older, more fragile than Jungkook remembered. His eye stuck in the simple furniture, the family photo of Jungkook and Taehyung on the desk, the success that had been built without the Jeon family empire. Father, Jungkook. Jungsu's voice was quiet, uncertain. You look well. I am well. They stared at each other across 5 years of silence, hurt, and stubborn pride. Finally, Jungsu's eyes fell on the photo again. The company is struggling, he said quietly. Has been since you left. I've made mistakes. Jungkook waited, saying nothing. I came to ask. His father's voice cracked slightly. I came to ask if you might consider coming back. Not as my heir, but as a consultant. We need fresh perspectives, new ideas. We need you. And Taehyung? Jungkook's voice was steady, but his hand found Taehyung's under the desk. Jungsu's jaw worked silently for a long moment. When he spoke, the words seemed to cost him everything. I've learned that losing a son is a far greater shame than anything I thought I was protecting the family from. If he makes you happy, then perhaps I was wrong about many things. It wasn't a full apology, wasn't complete acceptance, but it was a beginning. Jungkook looked at Taehyung, who squeezed his hand and nodded slightly. We'll consider it, Jungkook said finally. But we come as a package deal, in business and in life. For the first time in 5 years, Jungsu smiled, small, tentative, but real. I wouldn't expect anything less. You always were stubborn. I learned from the best, Jungkook replied, and for a moment, they both almost laughed. Later, after his father had left with promises to call soon, Jungkook and Taehyung sat in their office as the sun set over the city. Are you sure about this? Taehyung asked. Going back. Jungkook pulled him closer, thinking about second chances and the courage it took to change. We're not going back. We're moving forward, together. There's a difference. Taehyung smiled, the same gentle smile that had captivated Jungkook from their very first meeting. Together sounds perfect. As they watched the city lights flicker to life, Jungkook reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From that first night in a hotel room, through the pain of choosing love over duty, to building something beautiful from the pieces of their shattered expectations. Some stories end with grand gestures and dramatic declarations. This one ended with something better, the quiet certainty of two people who had fought for their love and won, ready to write the next chapter of their lives together. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like and share the story. Come back for more heart-warming Taekook stories.